Pratima and welcome to Planet Physiology, where concepts become crystal clear. Let's begin the video with a quick story. A 45-year-old female comes to the clinic and says, "Whenever I turn over in bed or look up to hang clothes, I feel like room is spinning." She is scared to walk alone, especially in dark, fearing she might fall. What do you think about this case? Yes, this sounds like a problem with vestibular system, the part of inner ear that helps us to maintain balance and know where our head is in space. The inner ear has two distinct functional components, the cochlea, which is concerned with hearing, and vestibular apparatus, which is responsible for equilibrium. The vestibular apparatus works silently behind the scenes and informs the brain about head position, movement and balance, helping us to walk straight, stand without swaying and keep our eyes steady even when we move our heads. Let's first look at its location. Imagine a tiny maze hidden deep inside your ear. That's the bony labyrinth. It is a series of interlinked cavities located in the petrous part of the temporal bone. Within this bony labyrinth lies a system of membranous sacs and ducts called membranous labyrinth. The fluid within the membranous labyrinth is called endolymph and its composition is similar to that of intracellular fluid, meaning it has more potassium and less sodium and chloride ions. In contrast, the fluid between the membranous and the bony labyrinth called perilymph has higher concentration of NaCl and less potassium ions, similar to that of extracellular fluid. An easy way to remember this is endo for inside, like intracellular fluid, and peri for outside, like extracellular fluid. Moreover, the endolymphatic compartment is approximately plus 60 to plus 80 millivolts more positive than that of perilymphatic compartment. This difference in the ionic composition and electrical potential is essential for mechanotransduction by the hair cells, that is, for generation of nerve impulses. So first let's study the structure of hair cells, which are the receptors in the inner ear. These are flask-shaped cells with numerous long hair-like projections called stereocilia on their apical surface. As you can see in this electron micrograph of hair cell, the length of the stereocilia progressively increases from one side to the other. In vestibular apparatus, the tallest of these projections is called kinocilium. The tips of all stereocilia are connected by thin filamentous structure called tip links. The vestibular nerve fibers make synaptic connections with the bases and the sides of the hair cells. Bending of stereocilia towards the kinocilium excites the hair cells. This causes release of neurotransmitter glutamate, which generates action potential in the vestibular nerve fibers. Bending away from kinocilium inhibits the hair cells, leading to reduced impulse generation in the vestibular nerve. Okay, now let's study the components of vestibular apparatus. First is the semicircular canals. There are 3 pairs of semicircular canals arranged in 3 different planes. They detect angular, that is rotational movement of the head. For example, nodding your head no or tilting your head to the side. Second component of the vestibular apparatus is otolith organ. It includes 2 sac-like structures, the utricle and saccule. They detect linear movement, like the sensation you get in moving car or elevator and the position of head with respect to gravity. Thus, vestibular apparatus gives us a complete sense of motion, rotational, up and down, forward, backward and even the tilt. Since you often get a short note on otolith organ, today I shall discuss it in detail to help you write a complete answer. So let's begin the topic, the otolith organ, with a simple scenario. Imagine you are sitting in a stationary train. The another train on the next track starts moving and for a moment you feel like you are the one moving. but you quickly realize it's just an illusion. To understand why that happens, let's first study the structure of otolith organ. As I mentioned earlier, otolith organ consists of two sac-like structures called utricle and saccule. The utricle is larger in size and has a triangular or heart-shaped macula. Macula is flat, elevated plate made of hair cells and supporting cells. In upright head position, the utricular macula lies horizontally. The macula is covered by an otolithic membrane which is gelatinous structure. Many tiny calcium carbonate crystals are embedded in it. These crystals are called otoconia, which are also known as otoliths, statoliths or statoconia. The cilia of the hair cells are embedded in the otolithic membrane, and the otoconia, due to higher specific gravity, constantly exert some pressure on these cilia. Now this content is mainly for postgraduate students, but it will help everyone to understand the functions of otolith organs better. The otolithic membrane of the utricle has a curved ridge which corresponds to the narrow crescent of underlying macula called striola. The hair cells in the macula are anatomically and functionally polarized with respect to the striola. They are arranged symmetrically on either side of the striola in such a way that in utricle, the kinocilia are directed towards the striola. This arrangement helps the otolith organ to detect any change in the head position. We shall discuss it in detail when we talk about the functions. Also worth noting, the striola has about 20% fewer hair cells compared to the other parts of the macula. Now let's study the saccule. It is a slightly elongated globular sac and is connected to the utricle by utriculosaccular duct. The saccule also has macula made of hair cells and supporting cells, but unlike utricle, the macula of saccule lies in vertical plane when the head is upright. Like utricle, it is also covered by an otolithic membrane containing otoconia, and hence the utricle and saccule together are called otolith organ. The saccular macula is elliptical and has S-shaped striola. Hair cells are arranged on either side of the striola in such a way that the kinocilia are directed away from the striola. Because the maculae of utricle and saccule are oriented in two different planes, they work as a team to detect the movement or tilting of the head in horizontal and vertical directions. With this understanding of the structure of otolith organ, let's now discuss its functions. The first function is to detect changes in the head position relative to gravity. Let's understand how. When a person is in erect position, the macula of utricle lies in horizontal plane and the statoconia are evenly distributed in the otolithic membrane as seen in this image. When the person bends the head, say during flexion while lifting the object from the ground, statoconia also shift forward due to gravity. This causes bending of stereocilia. Since the hair cells are arranged in polarized manner, a change in the head position stimulates some hair cells and inhibits others to varying degrees. These patterns of hair cell stimulation make the brain aware of the head's position in the space, and this allows the brain to adjust the muscle tone to maintain the balance. The same principle applies to any directional change in the head position while standing upright. In fact, humans can detect as little as 0.5 degree change in the head position. Now let's study the role of saccule. When standing upright, the macula of saccule is in vertical plane. In this position, the gravity constantly pulls down the otolithic membrane and statoconia, exerting a continuous force on the stereocilia. This gives brain ongoing information about head's position relative to gravity. In a lying down position, the macula of the saccule shifts to horizontal plane and functions exactly like utricle does when upright, detecting any change in the head position while lying down. Now coming to the second important function of otolith organ, detection of linear acceleration. that is, its role in static equilibrium. The macula of utricle detects horizontal acceleration. For example, when you are running forward, backward, sideways, or sensing the movement of vehicle. Let's understand this with a simple example. Say you are sitting in a car, stopped at red signal. The signal turns green and the driver accelerates rapidly. You feel your head suddenly pushed back against the seat for a moment, and that feeling is picked up by the utricle. Now let's zoom into the utricle and see how it works. As the car accelerates, your body and the head move forward, but otoconia lag behind because they are heavier than that of surrounding endolymph. This lag causes otolithic membrane to shift backwards relative to the hair cells, causing bending of the stereocilia. Since the stereocilia are oriented in opposite directions on the either side of the striola, some are stimulated and others are inhibited. The vestibular nerve carries this unique firing pattern to the vestibular nuclei in the brainstem and the cerebellum. It is interpreted as if the person is about to fall backwards, and this centers immediately adjust the muscle tone to maintain the balance. As a result, you reflexly lean forward. Once the vehicle reaches a constant speed, otolithic membrane returns to its normal position and statoconia become evenly distributed again. As a result, vestibular nerve firing returns to its resting state. But when the brakes are applied suddenly to stop the vehicle, opposite happens, and again the utricle detects this change and makes you move backward to maintain your equilibrium. Okay, hope that helped you to understand the working principle of utricle. Now let's observe these two pictures. First, the starting stance of a 100-meter dash sprinter, and a second, starting stance of a marathon runner. Pause for a moment and think, why do 100-meter dash athletes start in a bent stance while marathon runners stand more upright? Okay, let's discuss it. A 100-meter sprinter starts from a crouched forward bent stance. One reason for this is to reduce the lag in the vestibular feedback. During the explosive start of a dash, the sprinter accelerates rapidly. This can trigger reflex muscle adjustments that may cause the person to fall backwards. By starting in a forward bent position, the utricle is better positioned to detect the immediate forward acceleration. This helps to generate rapid vestibular signals to maintain balance and coordination during explosive starts. But once the sprinter reaches steady running speed, the forward lean is due to air resistance and not because of vestibular inputs. Thus, otolith organ plays a role only during initial acceleration and not afterwards, highlighting its role in static equilibrium. In contrast, a marathon runner starts in a more upright stance because marathon running emphasizes energy conservation and not the explosive speed. Since the acceleration is slower, balance control doesn't require such a rapid vestibular feedback, and utricle can easily handle the gradual acceleration even when the head is upright, so there is no need for forward lean. Okay, this was about utricle's role in detecting horizontal linear acceleration. Now let's study the saccule's role in detecting the linear acceleration in vertical plane, such as when you are moving up or down in elevators, jumping or falling. Let's understand this with an elevator example. Imagine you are in an elevator and it suddenly starts moving upwards. Have you noticed how you feel just a bit heavier or like you are being pulled down for a moment? That's not just in your head. It's your vestibular system, especially the saccule, at work. As we saw earlier, when you are standing upright, gravity constantly pulls the otolithic membrane and the otoconia downwards. When the elevator goes up, the body accelerates upwards and so does the saccule. But the otolithic membrane and otoconia momentarily lag behind. This makes them shift further downward, bending the hair cells. As a result, vestibular nerve sends signal to the brain, we are moving upwards. When the elevator moves down, The otoconia again lag, but this time the shift is upward relative to hair cells. The vestibular firing decreases and the brain senses we are going down. In vestibular disorders, even a normal elevator ride can cause dizziness. Now here is a simple tip to help you remember the function of utricle and saccule. Imagine you are traveling to US. So first you will reach the airport by car and then you will board a plane. Now correlate it like this. U for utricle. U is the first letter in US and you first travel by road. So utricle detects horizontal acceleration. S for saccule and S comes next and the plane goes up. So saccule detects vertical acceleration. Also utricle detects changes in the head position in horizontal plane and a saccule in the vertical plane. Okay, coming to the next function of otolith organ, its role in spatial orientation. Spatial orientation is the ability of our brain to understand the position of the body in space. This is an integrated function of vestibular apparatus, visual system and proprioceptors. But even in absence of visual and proprioceptive inputs, the vestibular apparatus can help us to know the orientation of the body, whether it is upright, tilted, moving, etc. Let's see an interesting application of this function. Imagine a blindfolded swimmer or a swimmer in a cloudy water. Here the visual inputs are gone, and in water, because of buoyancy, the gravitational pull is not as obvious. So even the feedback from muscles and joints become less reliable. That's when the vestibular system, especially the otolith organs, become crucial. They can still sense the direction of linear acceleration as well as gravity. And hence, the swimmer often drifts slightly upwards and surfaces much earlier than expected. This also prevents them from sinking. Now coming to the last function, the role of otolith organ in the vestibular reflexes. Vestibulospinal reflex is primarily mediated by otolith organ, the utricle and saccule. They detect linear acceleration and the position of head relative to gravity. This information is essential for activating anti-gravity muscles to maintain upright posture and preventing fall when body position shifts. The signals from otolith organ travel to vestibular nuclei and alter the muscle tone via lateral and medial vestibulospinal tracts. For example, a change in head position immediately increases the tone in the trunk and the limb muscles on the opposite side to prevent person from falling. The otolith organ also play important role in various postural reflexes like vestibular placing reaction, labyrinthine writing reflex and tonic labyrinthine reflex. We shall study the details of these reflexes later. Now let's end the discussion with the same clinical case that we started with. So this lady may have benign paroxysmal positional vertigo, where dizziness or the vertigo is associated with changes in the head position. It usually occurs due to dislodging of otoconia from utricle. This can happen due to various reasons, including aging, trauma to the head, inner ear infections, or sometimes idiopathic. The dislodged otoconia usually float into the posterior semicircular canal due to its anatomical orientation. When the person changes their head position, say lying down, rolling over in the bed, or looking up or down, the gravity causes this free-floating otoconia to move within the affected semicircular canal. This movement of heavier otoconia drags the endolymph with them, leading to deflation of cupula in the affected canal, even when there is no actual head rotation. This sends erroneous signals to the brain, indicating a strong rotational movement that isn't actually happening. This mismatch of signals between the affected ear and the unaffected ear is what causes intense brief spinning sensation, that is vertigo and nystagmus. Okay, so what are the key takeaways of this session? The otolith organs are part of vestibular apparatus located in inner ear and includes the utricle and saccule. Both have maculae that contain hair cells. Cilia of the hair cells are embedded in the gelatinous membrane that contain otoconia. Bending of stereocilia towards kinocilium stimulates the hair cells while bending away inhibits it. Otolith organ detect changes in the head position relative to gravity Utricle detects these changes in horizontal plane and Saccule in the vertical plane or when lying down. It also detects linear acceleration, Utricle in horizontal plane and Saccule in vertical plane. The otolith organs play important role in spatial orientation and participates in reflexes like vestibular spinal reflex, vestibular placing reaction, labyrinthine writing reflex and tonic labyrinthine reflex. In the next video, we shall dive deeper into the semicircular canals and meet cupula and crista ampullaris and see how they detect angular acceleration. If you found this content helpful, don't forget to like and share the video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video only on Planet Physiology. If you enjoy my presentations, press the like button and share it with your friends. For more such videos, subscribe my channel and click the bell icon. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.